you had this interesting story, and I saw it last night, and I was really surprised because you did not bring this up yesterday. And by the way, your Lakers looked horrible last night against Golden State. In Milwaukee, laid the absolute wood to Brooklyn last night. And, of course, everyone was like, Durant and Harden could really send a message to Kyrie.
You're going like,
but you still got two, if not the two best basketball players in the NBA. You can make an argument for both of them. Durant, I think, is like amazing, and Harden is amazing. Do you really need a third? We know when the three are together and they're cohesive and they're playing together for a period of time, I don't think they can be beaten. When you got one coming out and going back and forth, it's just that chemistry. It's kind of like, okay, and you got three guys that love to shoot the ball. Harden, I think, has been amazing because he's been willing to drop his points per game down in order to be a facilitator, much like LeBron James has done later in his life. I think he's amazing. I think and I never liked him, the beard and all that, but I think he's an incredible basketball player. So they get blown out against who? Giannis Antetokounmpo. Antetokounmpo last night. I mean, he goes off last night, and so they just buried it. So I was surprised you didn't bring up NBA yesterday, and so I'm going to bring it up today. But there was a really interesting story about Ben Simmons, who I think.
That's why I texted you this morning about.
Kemba Walker's another one of those guys. There's some guys in the league that, on any given night, can absolute be studs and superstars, but they're just not consistent enough. You'll see, Luka, another one of those guys where every night he's going for 35.
Right. That's right.
He is as consistent. He's unbelievable. Even when he's banged up, he plays his ass off. LeBron, for the most part, every single night is great. James Harden, every single night. Kevin Durant, every single night. They're not going to get less than 20, and they're going to be they may have an off-shooting night, shoot 50% instead of 60, whatever. But Giannis, another one of those guys where just like 99 out of 100 games, man, the guy, you can count on him every single night. Ben Simmons is one of those guys where you see just flashes of brilliance.
Yes.
Westbrook, another guy where I think you can count on him every single night. Kemba Walker, who I really like because he's always got a smile on his face. But he's up and down, man. One game he's going for 35 and 12, and then the next game they don't even use him. It's like, what in the world's going on? And you see this in all sports, right? Ben Simmons has always been a really interesting cat. He's had a lot of peripheral off the basketball court situations with relationships. We've heard about him. Just pull up Ben Simmons, Google it, and see who's been hanging out with or who he's dating. So when I saw the story last night you sent me, and I read it this morning, and Embiid basically said, we're not babysitting you anymore. Right. And he gets, I guess, benched last night. Talk about the story and from a psychological standpoint.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's really interesting.
And particularly the coach.
How old has Ben? 28? I mean, he's been in the league for a while.
I mean, he's not. I don't know that he's 28, but he's not 21.
He's not a rookie.
Not a rookie. And what I think is even more interesting. So Ben got kicked out of practice, right? Because I love when they write the word he spat.
Yeah,
I like spitted, but he spat. And Doc Rivers, perfect coach for this. Like the whole scenario, because Doc Rivers has just got this calm dad like.
He's a player's coach.
He's a player's coach, but his demeanor too is just very introspective. He experienced. He knows the thing. So Ben Simmons was asked to sub out in a drill, and he spit.
Yep.
Like a 12-year-old.
Did he spit at someone or just spit?
No, he just spit because he didn't want to go out. And Doc was like, okay, you're gone.
Yeah.
Which, and that's what I'm saying. It's interesting. If you read Doc's, and again, there's politics in it, but you read Doc Rivers, he's like, look, it's early in the season. There's stuff that happens in practice, blah, 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 blah. It was no big deal. I felt it was better if today he was gone. And we see kids get kicked out of practice all the time.
Sure.
Okay. But the difference is you got all the other stuff that's there, including, and I'm not even talking about the off-court stuff. Forget all the off-court stuff, because we were talking about this last year. First, it was the free throws. Can't shoot a free throw.
Yeah.
But a guy who, maybe unlike a Shaq, he's 6'10" and a half or whatever, can dribble between his legs, he can shoot outside, he's got these unbelievable skills, can't shoot a free throw, and as a psychologist, I'm always the first one. If you can't shoot a free throw, it's all up here. It's in your mind, okay?
It's got to be.
Yeah, and it gets worse and worse and worse, and they've interviewed Shaq years later, right? And they've asked him, what was it with the free throws? It was because they used to say his hands are too big, he's like, you know what it was? I was scared to death that I wasn't going to make a free throw.
Yeah.
I mean, he was on. So first was the free throws. Then you got that weird thing, which I think a lot of us are not used to seeing in an NBA player of that caliber, which was all the hesitation, the take, 6'10", take it to the hoop and dish it off, and it was enough that you didn't need to be a diehard fan. You're right. It was almost like watching your kid play in high school, going, wait, hey, just dunk the ball.
Yeah.
Right. And I told you this last year when I saw those two things, and I saw it at the end of the season, I'm like, I hope they got a sports psychologist with this guy, because he has got, and see, this is what I think is important for people to understand. When I say he's got issues, he could be depressed, he could have an anxiety disorder, but he doesn't have to. He is in a bad place psychologically for playing his game.
Yeah.
I don't even have to know what it is. We've talked about he sat out, right? He didn't want to come to camp. So you could say, well, that's just a negotiation thing. You could talk about the vaccination. There were some vaccination issues. But when you come in after all of that stuff that's going on, and you've lost some credibility because you're struggling.
Mm-hmm.
You have an opportunity to make up for that by coming into practice and just playing. Right? People know you're great.
You got the skill, and you've got your skill set. You got the athleticism. You got all the pieces there that, quite frankly, you could perform even without your brain. Right?
Well, and you're in a place, you're in a league, you're at the level where if you said, look, I just can't get my head right around this, boom, they'd have 17 sports psychologists and everybody. But when he spit and got kicked out of practice, to me, if you put all those other things, now you've got somebody who really needs to learn how to be professional in all aspects. I don't mean just the demeanor, right? Again, think about this, somebody at work, somebody you know is coming in talented, and then they start not performing, and they get called into their boss, and you're like, hey, man, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
You're not producing. And you say, I don't know, I can't get in, well, let's work on your skills training. This is how someone like me, let's get you a coach.
Yeah.
But I feel like with the Ben Simmons thing that got really bad was...
Ben is only 25, by the way.
Okay, so he's young.
Yeah.
Not as a...
I was going to say, if he's 28, it makes a big difference. 3 more years in the league, you better not be acting like this.
25 years old. If you take a 25-year-old, and I don't care if you've been in the league for 4 years or 5 years, you take the psychological maturity of a 25-year-old, and this is... And put all pressure and all that kind of stuff, it's not surprising that you get this. At the same time, you see a lot of these guys, they have to mature, or at the very least, they're able to hold it together, and you see different outlets. Ben Simmons is a guy who he may lose his career because of his psychological maturity.
And I don't think as fans we think about this because we think you're a baller, whether you're a football player, baseball player. You obviously are at your physical specimen best early on in your life. You can take more punishment. And we know at the age of 30, everything starts to slide down a little bit. Now we're seeing people, including the Tom Brady's of the world, play all the way into their 40s, but those are anomalies, those are outliers. But, you need to be 25 to rent a car.
Right. That's yes.
Right. And so what does that tell you?
That's exactly.
Because from a maturity. And so throw in the fact that you don't know their past, you don't know what they came from, inner city schools, whether they're privileged or not, whatever. Throw in the fact that he's 25. Throw in the fact that he's been thrust into celebritydom. He's been on TV shows. He dates famous women. And then throw in millions and millions and millions of dollars and having people tell you how great you are and see what kind of psychological mess that is. And again, I'm compassionate towards the guy. I don't feel sorry for the guy because he's obviously good to go. Poor baby. He's 25. He's making $16 million a year and he can't play basketball.
But if he's your commodity,
yeah,
right? Or if you're a Philly fan and you a Philly fan, you're like, get him out. But if you need him, and we don't know what they're doing behind the scenes, but if you need him, he needs to get his head. You need to, I'm sorry, I feel like Rachel. You need to help him get his head straight. Or you need to try to help because all of this that we're seeing from the free throws to the hesitant play to this speaks 100% to something is going on upstairs that's got nothing to do with, like you said, his raw talent.
Give me some other, and I just wrote down 3, just came to the top of my head. Give me some other athletes that had a God-given talent and athleticism, knew that if everything was good, they were going to be the best in their sport, but for some reason, because of what's happening up here, could not pull it off. And Derrick Rose Derrick Rose is playing out of his mind as a utility guy and a facilitator right now, but was an MVP and just had the injury and just was never the same again. And it was all up here. He was told he was healthy or good, go after it, get after it, and just was a totally different cat for a while. Now he's part of a team concept. Allen Iverson was another one of those guys. Where
I was going to say Allen, and then I wasn't because
maybe it's because of the story we read yesterday.
Well, no, but also because Allen.
But he was a baller, man.
But that's what I'm saying. Like
that was his outlet.
Ben Simmons is sort of falling apart. His play is falling apart. Allen had all these off court and on and off court sort of distractions, but he played. He was a baller. Now he wasn't good for the culture, and he clashed with Larry Brown and all those kinds of things. But that's what I was trying to go in my head. Who sort of fell apart from expectations in terms of their ability to play?
I've got the best one, and thank God he had Phil Jackson as coach, but Dennis Rodman.
Well, I was going to say that one.
But I mean, the difference here is that Dennis showed up and played his ass off. Now, he may say, I'm missing game 3 of the playoffs because I need to go to Vegas and get my yayas out for a night.
Yep.
And he did.
Well, yeah.
And Phil's like, where the hell's Dennis? He had to go to Vegas for the night.
But see,
and he's up all night, but he came back the next night and had 20 boards.
But that's different the guy. Ben's is a unique. I don't know enough basketball players. Ben is a unique situation. There is something. I mean, and I'm using Kevin Love as the experience.
Kevin Love, another guy.
Yeah. Well, then we come to find out part of what Kevin Love's problem was he was having panic attacks.
Yeah.
So you see that. We're not supposed to do this, but Ben Simmons' demeanor, the outward demeanor, the hesitation, it reeks to me of maybe some depression. I mean, again, I shouldn't, we're not supposed to do that, but I would not be surprised if he's got a diagnosis of depression. I don't know, anxiety disorder and what Kevin Love had was Kevin Love was having panic attacks. I mean, he was anxiety driven, and Ben could not have any diagnosis other than what we sort of call psychosocial stress. Like he's out of his element. But if you told me he was depressed, it would not surprise me because.
And it's funny you bring this up because what are we doing right here? We see it rock and roll all the time.
Oh, yeah.
All the time. I mean, you see Chris Cornell on a Saturday night playing his ass off in Tuscaloosa, and 10 days later, he's committing suicide.
Right.
And you're like looking at him, and he's laughing, he's having a good time. Right. And that's where depression is a booger bear because 1 minute they look good. They're having a good time. They were laughing. They were having a great time. They were drinking, blah, 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 blah. The next night, they're in a ditch somewhere.
Ben's in and then I think the other thing that we do that's not fair is you were talking about this. Well, look, LeBron did it. Antetokounmpo's doing it. That they're able to hold it together with that level of talent. Mm-hmm. They are the outliers among the outliers.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the part. Like when you see a 22, 23, 24, 25-year-old kid, it is not surprising to me that you see maturity issues. And I think the difference is some kids are able to adapt quicker. Some teams and coaches are able to, Phil Jackson's, are able to mold it, hold it to the side, keep it in check. And then for some, you just can't. And I think the unique thing about Ben Simmons that we've never seen, is this weird sort of combination of hesitation, anxiety, and anger.
Yeah, there's a just from the outside, from 30,000 feet, it looks like he doesn't care.
I don't think it's a don't care.
Well, I don't think it is either. He looks lazy and he looks like he doesn't care. And those, again, are other symptoms of perhaps some type of depression.
Well, and they don't care, or the pressure getting to you. Now, here's the other one. This is really interesting, and this is we've seen this in football, and I can't think of the players. You get to the pros.
Yeah.
It's your dream. And you go, I don't like this.
Mm-hmm.
I love playing basketball.
Yeah.
I love the money, but the pressure, I don't like this. Can you imagine being 6'10" and being that and saying, I don't want to do this? Can you, again, this is you are the best of the best. And you're like, man, it's not really.
I don't think anybody, and some people say this, and I don't think it's true. I don't think any athlete has ever spent their entire lives, from Pop Warner to high school to college to get into pros, has ever spent their entire life doing a particular skill just to make bank so they can hang it up.
Yeah, no. Because you can't get there.
We look at the Ryan Leafs and we look at the Vince Youngs, the guys who got the big paydays, not their fault. They were offered the money, they got the payday. And this thought, well, he got his money and he just quit. He just quit because, no, I don't know anyone that spends 12. Now, if you told me, Tony, for the next 10 years, you're going to do something you don't like.
Right.
And you're going to make $30 million. I think I could figure out a way to work that job. I could dig ditches for 10 years if I knew there was a $30 million payday at the end of it. And maybe I couldn't. I don't know, because there's a lot to be said about loving what you do for your life. And it's not all about the money. But these people, he got his big payday and he just hung it up. He realized he got all the money in the world and now he doesn't have to do it anymore. And, and people are saying that about Kyrie. He's getting his money. He's getting his bank. Screw the vaccine. I don't need it. I don't believe that. I actually believe he doesn't want to get the vaccine for personal issues. I don't think he's hanging it up. It's unfortunate because we want you to hurt when you're not doing things that we need you to do.
Yeah, we need you to do.
But there's no guy that signs a $50 million deal and all of a sudden gets banged up the next week. And
in fact,
they want to play. Now, there are some cases, though, I think, where life changes. It could be depression. It could be something in their personal life. It could be their family life, where I just decided. Ricky Waters did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they traded away 9 picks to get him to go to Miami with Mike Ditka. He came in, had some success. Next thing you know, he's sitting in a tent smoking weed, in his mid-20s, and then he came back and had a pretty successful career. But I don't know a lot of people, it's not like getting a big fat payday and just hanging it up. I don't believe any athlete ever thinks that way.
No, and listen, every rookie will tell you in every pro sport. I've heard Jay talk about this. That jump to the pros, you could be great, but the jump to the pros is this dramatic shift, not only in sport, in life. And I always, you always hear this. At least in basketball, but it is in football too. There's 2 things that always stick out in my mind in basketball. So they jump to the pros. They're somewhere between, let's just say, 19 to 22, 23. That's when they get to the pros. And you always hear these 2 things. Number one, they're blown away by how fast the game is. You hear them in football too. These are guys that they're like, oh my God. That's number one. And then number 2, I always hear about the travel. And I don't know what it is about me. I'm thinking, these guys that get on beautiful planes and it's not even that. They'll say, we get into a city at 3:00 in the morning.
Travel sucks. You're going from playing 30 games a year in a college where you got your dorm and you're still talking to mom and dad and you got your girlfriend, this, that, and the other, to being on the road for 41 games a year and 41 at home. I mean, I can't imagine.
Well, and can you imagine just think about the sleeping and the eating. Again, you're a 23-year-old. You land at 3:00 in the morning. Yeah. You're told to go to sleep, and you have to have a certain amount of because you got to play at the highest level. That kind of change, you will either you either adapt, and it takes some kids adapt real quickly, some kids adapt slower, some. What you find out is, despite their skill, we talked about the ones, it's isn't that they didn't make it in the NBA, they never made it to the potential we thought.
Yeah.
I don't believe that it's their physical skill alone.
Yeah.
I believe it's the whole thing.